I was a very, very good little girl. I always said please and thank you when I was very, very polite. And then I go down into the basement and draw these horrible, twisted, angry images. It was a way of me coping with very, very strong feelings and emotions. And my parents allowed it. They didn't take me to see a psychiatrist. They didn't have me committed, which if, if my child did that, I would definitely, seek help.
Welcome to The Creative Asylum, a weekly podcast that digs deep into the minds of visionary creators of all stripes. Musicians, actors, filmmakers, writers, artists, cartoonists, and cultural disruptors. Here, we'll discuss perspectives of living life on your own terms. Life lessons that keep us grounded, insane, and sometimes pull us back from the edge. So, take a deep breath, loosen your grip on the bland and the boring. This is your weekly prescription for authentic living, creative clarity, and hopefully, a little bit of cultural rebellion.
Side effects may include spontaneous joy, existential epiphanies, and an uncontrollable urge to do weird and beautiful things.
This is one of the most exciting interviews that I've had the pleasure to conduct. It's one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite contemporary artists, and honestly, just one of my favorite people in general. Her name is Laurie Lipton, and if you're not familiar with her work, it's going to blow your mind. And if it doesn't, maybe you're in the wrong place. I don't know. Her medium is pencil. She uses graphite primarily, some charcoal. She tends to work on a really large scale, typically bigger than anything I can afford. I first met her in 2010 when I saw a show of her work at La Luz de Jesus. It was her and Jessica Jocelyn. And I fell in love with her work. And I bought a piece from the show. It's one of my favorite pieces. You can actually kind of see it right behind me, that little bit of black and white over my right shoulder. Anyway, I got to meet her. I became friends with her. I've been friends with her since. So rather than waxing rhapsodic about the amazing qualities of her work, the extraordinary content that's kind of pulled from the darkest corners of the human psyche, I'll just let you see her work. It'll be cut in throughout this whole conversation that we have, and you can see for yourself what I'm talking about. I think you're really going to enjoy this one, hopefully as much as I enjoyed having this conversation with Laurie Lipton. Good morning, Laurie. How are you?
Good. How are you, Daniel?
I'm doing okay. I'm super excited that we're having this conversation. I was doing a little research this morning because I was trying to remember like how long ago it was when I met you. And it was when you had that show at La Luz de Jesus. And that was all the way back in 2010.
Yeah, it was before I moved to LA.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of the predecessor, right? More or less, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, when I moved to LA, then the A's signed me on.
Oh, right. Yeah. And I saw you there too.
Mhm.
But at that show at La Luz de Jesus, I think it was called Machine Punk. It was 2010.
Yeah, oh my God, that's a long time. Yeah.
It seems like a long time, and yet it seems just like a few years ago at the same time.
No, to me, it seems like a long time.
Does it? Yeah. We've probably created an immense amount of work since then, I imagine.
Yes, I have. Thank God. I'm so lucky.
And the piece I really, really wanted was the one that was the postcard, but I couldn't afford it. And I think Billy got that one.
Which one was that? Was that the automobile?
Yeah.
Because that's when Billy got.
Yeah. So, even better taste than me. Actually, taste every bit as good as me, but more means to obtain the piece from the show that
I can do a little version for you if you'd like.
Well, if and when this podcast is successful and I'm earning money, I will be,
I actually have this. You cheap.
I have this fantasy. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what it is. Mm-hmm. I have this fantasy that I win the lottery, maybe move back to LA and have this beautiful, beautiful house on maybe a couple of acres. And you might think I'm insane, but then I had this idea of like, what if there was like a little house over there with a connected studio to it? And because I won the lottery and now I'm rich, I can just say, hey, Laurie, do you want to live over there for free and have a studio and just do your art, and that's the fantasy.
Well,
And then in the
hold on,
and then
hold on.
yes,
How
okay,
big is the studio? The ceiling, it has to be at least like 10 foot high and 20 foot
sure.
long, because otherwise, I don't know. Daniel?
I'm thinking bigger.
Oh, okay.
Or I'm thinking because I just won the lottery, well, I can just say, "What do you need?" And then we build it, right? That'd be
All right,
fun.
so now I'm going to pray for you to win the lottery like nobody's business.
Okay, it's a deal. It's a deal. It's a deal. So, all right. As I mentioned, I'm very excited to be talking to you. You are absolutely one of my favorite contemporary artists in the whole world. You also are just a delightful person, and I consider myself lucky to be able to call you a friend, you know? And I guess really what everybody else that might be watching or listening to this really wants to know is more about you and your art and less about me winning the lottery. But I think that everybody should channel that reality as well. I was first exposed to your work back in 2010 when you had that show.
Mhm.
I had never seen anything quite like the work you do, and
Mhm.
it resonated with me on so many levels. The fact that somebody was doing work with this kind of detail and intentionality and razor sharp social commentary using pencils blew my mind. The scale of the work kind of blew my mind. Me trying to imagine your process because it is so incredibly detailed. It's one thing to see your work online and go, oh, wow, that's amazing. And then it's a whole nother thing to actually be standing in front of some of your pieces and really looking at how fine the lines are and how incredibly detailed and layered all the work is. So,
It's funny because every artist says, my work looks much better in real life. But
mhm,
my work looks totally different in real life because there's 100 million gazillion lines forming each form. So when you
right.
see it on a screen, whether it's a big screen or you're not seeing all the lines. So when people come into one of my shows and they're talking and having a good time and they see the drawing, everyone shuts up and they're like,
Yes. Yeah.
great.
I mean, even seeing your work reproduced online
Yeah.
makes me shut up. And then in person, my jaw drops. It's amazing. I think one of the things that also kind of blows my mind about your work is, well, there's so much, but the light. You get such a quality of light. I've heard you talk about the influence of Jan van Eyck on your work
Mhm.
and the Flemish masters, and
Mhm.
that's so much what I get from that whole movement is their sense of light, and I see
Mhm.
it in your work. How do you get that? How do you approach that? How do you think
Well,
about
it's not only, Jan van Eyck, the thing that I got from him more than light is the detail. When I lived in Bruges for 3 years, and I used to take the train into Ghent, or Ghent as they call it,
that?
and
Hint.
go down this little cobblestone street to a church that housed Jan van Eyck's Lamb of God, which is a huge triptych. And in those days, it was the 80s. I was the only one in there. I was the only one.
Really?
There was nothing. There was a little man with white gloves. He was the guard, and he used to open and close the huge doors of the triptych. I think it was every 45 minutes or so. I spoke Dutch, which is
Mhm.
unusual for an American. So Flemish and Dutch, it's like the difference between English and American. So I understood
Right.
him and he understood me. And so
Right.
after a while, because I used to go there at least once a week, he allowed me to get up close.
Let's talk about the photographic, or maybe not quite photographic quality of your work. I don't want to call it realism per se, but it is representative. I certainly don't want to call it surrealistic, which it's not, but it has a semi photographic quality. It has a semi realistic quality. How would you refer to that quality of your work?
Well, again, Jan van Eyck and the early Renaissance, late medieval was a narrative art because no one could read. And
Mhm.
so they had to illustrate the Bible so people knew what was going on in there. And so it told a story. That's really what interested me. And it's interesting that I come from a family total atheists. My father used to take us to museums on Sunday to let my mother work. My mother was a teacher. And she had to mark papers and make her program and everything. So my brother and I were taken to museums on Sunday. And my father used to take us to the cloisters in upstate New York, which was my favorite place, and
Mhm.
had a lot of religious paintings in there. And I didn't know what was going on. I thought there was a weird midget sitting on the lap of this lovely lady, and there was a plate behind him, and there were people with wings. So I used to stare at these things like, oh my God, what the hell is, what the hell is going on? And my father and my brother would walk around and leave me, and I would just be fascinated by these weird things. So that's what caught me first. And I always thought, wow, I can make up stuff too. I could just go crazy in my head and just draw what the hell I want. And that's what I used to do. I was a very, very good little girl. I always said please and thank you when I was very, very polite. And then I go down into the basement and draw these horrible, twisted, angry images. It was a way of me coping with very, very strong feelings and emotions. And my parents allowed it. They didn't take me to see a psychiatrist. They didn't have me committed, which if my child did that, I would definitely seek help. But they just let me do what I wanted. They used to show it to visiting family, like
Right.
relatives. They would go, look what Laurie did. And people would look and just like back away from me slowly because it was really disturbing
Yeah.
stuff. And I just used it to get out stuff.
Well, I mean, I think that's something I like so much about your work is that there's not a lot of work that seems to so successfully plumb those dark corners of the human psyche the way yours does. I'm assuming that somewhere in your psyche there's some dark corners, but I think maybe for all of us there are.
Well, I plumbed my dark corners. The duality of what I looked like
Mhm.
and what I felt like always, I've done a lot of drawings about it.
Yeah.
I looked so adorable. I was the cutest little girl. My mother dressed me up in frilly little dresses, but actually I was a tomboy. I liked wearing cowboy outfits. I couldn't wait to get those dresses off. I
Yeah.
hated them. My grandma used to give my brother a gun and me a doll, and my brother and I used to switch immediately when she left the house because I hated dolls and my brother didn't really like guns that much. I didn't have a connection between what I looked like and what I
Mhm.
felt like,
Sure.
and I think
Sure.
a lot of people feel that way.
I think so too. I think that's part of why your work resonates to me is because I'm like,
Mhm.
on some weird level, some weird dark level, I relate to so much of your imagery. And so much of it, like I know a lot of your more current work is leaning more into quote unquote politics. But I feel like on some level your work has always been political in a way,
Mm.
because it's always dealt with social politics, subjugation of feminism, the psychotic, manic 50s housewives. What do you call them?
When I was growing up, watching black and white TV, by the way, which is another influence, they always had these commercials with these incredibly euphoric housewives with these new technology in the kitchen. They can cook faster, they can wash the clothes better, and they were so happy with their pointy little breasts running around the kitchen, ecstatic. So I used that with the technology we were having
Yeah,
like Blade Runner. The technology is fabulous, it's wonderful, but it's also destroying us. So it's a double-edged sword. It's a kind of new dystopia. It's ironic. It's the newness, but it's also destroying everything around it. So I had these housewives from the commercials that I remember. Only I use my smile because I'm the only one in my studio. So I'm like this in my, I'm copying the mirror. I have a really good smile. It's excellent. So it looks so manic. So I allow myself, I love the technology because what I do is I get a sponge, a damp sponge with charcoal, and I put it on the paper and then I draw into it. And it gets me all these amazing little wires and machines. And I love doing that. It's a lot of fun.
I want to ask you about all your wires and all of that. So I think it was in the documentary Crumb about Robert Crumb, but it might have been somewhere else. But a lot of his pictures have these urban backdrops with like all these telephone poles and all these crazy wires. And, I would often look at that work and be fascinated. I think it was in the movie he talks about, he has all these photos that he took of just that because he goes, it's almost too much to like conjure from memory. So I have these photos for reference. And so much of your work have all these crazy wires and, and these circuit boards and these just panels with buttons. And I'm wondering if you just pull that from your brain, if you have some kind of reference to do that.
I use whatever I need. I mean,
Yeah.
I have dolls here. I set up still life. I use photos, but mostly I use my imagination because I want to play and I want to see what's coming out. So if I need something or something pushes me, I will use it.
Yeah.
So I'll use a photo if I go, oh, I can play with that. Or I use, I take photos. Oh, it's so funny. I was in Salzburg, okay, in Austria. And I'm walking around with my friend, and she's going, look at all this amazing architecture. And I am focused on a pile of wires in the gutter. I'm just like, oh, wow. It's just, I get pulled by certain things. I don't know why. I can close my eyes and picture those wires in the gutter because I stared at it enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have photographic memory in a way
Yeah.
for images, whereas somebody's name, although I know yours, Daniel, because it says it right on there. It says Daniel. But no, I mean, I will forget somebody's name, even if it's Laurie, within seconds. But I remember images very clearly because I guess it's because I trained my brain. I've worked with them for so long. So I guess.
And you think in images to a certain degree, right?
Well, I totally think in images, and I thought that was normal. But my mom said, no, darling, people think in words.
Do you know the word, what is the word? I was going to say onomatopoeia, but that's not correct.
Synesthesia.
Synesthesia. Thank you. Yes. Yes. So synesthesia is the process of like seeing things that are visual, or I think vice versa as well.
When I get a very strong emotion, which is why a lot of my work is political right now, because it's making me emote like nobody's business, I get an image. I get an image immediately in my head. And it's interesting. I don't draw it down when it comes to me. I have a notebook next to my drawing table, and it's with titles because the words create images in my head. So if I get an image of, something, I will write down, this is, and I just need to read the titles to get the image back.
Do you get the image and the title at the same time, or the image comes first and that suggests
No,
the
I
title?
mean, the title, it's sometimes it isn't, sometimes it does, but I just need the words to conjure the image. It's very interesting.
I think it's great. It's cool. Do you tend to sketch out your work in a smaller format before you do large canvas? Or you have the image in your head and you just start working on the large canvas?
I have the image, and what I do.
Canvas is the wrong word, but.
No, it is a canvas. When I say I do pencil drawings, it's very misleading because my work takes longer than a canvas, a painting of equal size. Well, there's no painting, I think, that would be as equal detail, but I work on a huge piece of paper. And what I do is the first 2 weeks, I'm just erasing because it has to look right. And it's also interesting. Maybe I'll have an image in my head. And once I put it on the canvas, it starts to change. I think it's more like writing a book. You have this storyline in your head, and then you get into the characters, you get into the details, and it takes off. It goes beyond what you imagined.
It sort of takes on a life of its own.
Yes, yes.
And the erasing is part of the process of composition.
Once I get to a certain point, I can't erase anymore. So I call it the cartoon. I'm making the line drawing on the entire piece of paper. And then when it looks right, it's another thing. I was never taught perspective in my university, and I went to one of the best art schools in the US, Carnegie Mellon University. They didn't teach me perspective. I just can't. I tried to teach myself.
I think you've done a pretty good job.
No, the thing is, all my work is slightly off, and I'm grateful to that because it's slightly I can't do I'm guessing.
I think between guessing and just having done it for like almost your entire life, you have an innate sense perspective for the most part, even if it's a little off.
You know what I started doing? because looking at a drawing, you don't see it after a while. So what I do is to see if the perspective is okay or not, I have a mirror and I
Uh-huh.
look at the drawing through the mirror and it goes back to front and it shows me if it's off or not. And I was living in Amsterdam and my studio was in the second bedroom, with my boyfriend. And the second bedroom had windows all the way around in one corner and it looked out over the rest of the courtyard, the other apartments. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would draw and then use the mirror and start drawing and use the mirror. And then my boyfriend and I, John and I, went down to the local pub to have a drink. And a woman came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you're that woman who's constantly looking at herself."
You're so vain.
And I said, no, I said in Dutch to her, "Well, wouldn't you if you looked like me?"
I know how to say one thing in Dutch and one thing only.
Oh yeah, go on, go on.
It's ik hou van jou.
Ik hou van jou. Oh, geweldig.
I'm hoping that's
That's very useful.
it is in certain circumstances, yes.
I learned how to order gin. That was the first thing I learned.
Do you even drink anymore?
No, I don't. I'm in AA because of ordering too much gin.
I'm not in AA, but I have not drunk for now 9 years.
Oh, nice, nice. It does make a difference.
Oh God, yes. Oh my God, I can't even imagine drinking alcohol at this point.
And also, I only have one brain cell left, and I needed to draw. So,
I'm gonna say you probably have 3 or 4.
Well, I did brush my teeth too.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. If you're enjoying this conversation, please make sure you hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video, leave a comment, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. It's the quickest way to grow our channel, and it's absolutely free. You can also subscribe to our other channels on social media. Check out our Instagram at Creative Asylum CA, that's the letter CA. We're on TikTok at The Creative Asylum, that's all one word. Our website is thecapod.com, and our Facebook profile is the same, facebook.com/thecapod. All right, back to the episode. So originally when I asked you about the certain semi-photographic quality of your work, there are a couple of photographers who, when I look at your work, I'm reminded of, not so much in terms of imagery, but in terms of feel and kind of the emotional impact that I get. And I am just wondering if they have been influences. And they are Diane Arbus and Mary Ellen Mark is the other one. Both of their work kind of give me a similar feeling that some of your work gives me, in the best way.
My life has changed when I was taken to a Diane Arbus exhibition in New York City. I think I was about 15. I'm not sure. I was using colored pencil. I drew all the time. I painted sometimes. I tried everything basically, but I saw her photography and I thought, oh my God, the black and white is so stark and so dramatic. And also, if you added color to Arbus's work, it would cut the power in half, I think.
Agreed. No, I agree.
So I was thinking that would do wonders for my work. And that's what committed me to black and white for life, is Diane Arbus's work. I'm not familiar with the other photographer you mentioned, but Arbus really.
Well, if you like Arbus, I'm guessing you'll like Mary Ellen Mark. I'm guessing you'll probably recognize some of her photos.
Oh, probably.
I'll send you something. That's really cool. I mean, I love it that a woman who worked in a different medium had a profound influence on choices you made in your own.
Well, it's not just the medium, it's the feel,
Yeah.
It's the psychology. You could work in anything. The things that affect me the most are not, it doesn't matter what medium they're in, film, books, anything. It's the truth, it's the reality, the underpinning, the subterranean reality of our daily lives. When people capture that even for a fraction of a second, that's what grabs me. It's the power of that,
Yes. But you think that black and white gives you more immediate or ready access to that power? I don't know if I'm phrasing it.
Well, for what the imagery I was using, I thought that was perfect.
Yeah. I have a really hard time imagining. I mean, I know I've seen a couple of pieces where there's a little bit of color. There's one with your feet and the TV, but I have a very hard time imagining seeing your work in color. It seems like a weird concept to me.
In the beginning, when I was first starting out and I went to all the galleries and I was trying to get a show in Europe, and all the gallerists. I had to actually go there. There was no internet. So, yeah, I had to schlep the portfolio. I had to make an appointment. I had to send them photos, which cost a lot of money, and they never sent it back. Those were hard times. I went to galleries and they would say to me, "Oh my God, these are amazing drawings. Do you paint?" Everyone said that to me, every single person. So I went home at one point because, I was waitressing in Dutch, by the way. I was speaking Dutch and waitressing. So anytime I feel like this life is too much right now, I think, yes, but you don't have to waitress in Dutch. So shut up. Anyway, I came home and I got a board and I spent money on sable brushes and I did painting. I did a couple of paintings in my images. They were horrible in my humble opinion. They were awful. They sold immediately and they made me so angry because I was a shit painter, but a fabulous drawer. But because everyone only wants paintings, my paintings sold. I never picked up a brush again. I thought, well, fuck you. Fuck you. I'm going to keep waitressing until somebody wants my drawings.
I would say it's paid off. Being uncompromising in that way and kind of being also similarly uncompromising just in the work that you put out there and the images that you put forth. I mean, I think you've been as pure and authentic to sort of your instinct as humanly possible.
Well, I've been very, very, very lucky. I had confidence that my parents gave me. My parents allowed me. My parents said I was a genius. I mean, typical Jewish parents, genius, genius, that kind of thing. And they gave me the confidence to follow my vision. And even though everyone was saying to me, add color, don't make it so disturbing, don't do this, don't do that. I said, no, this is what I do. If you don't like it, fine. But it took a very, very long time to get accepted.
Sure, but who gives a shit?
Well, when you're out of money and waitressing in Dutch, I gave it.
Yeah. But you could have said, I'm going to do paintings and sell them, and you chose not to. So I guess that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. Is you're like, I give a shit, but I don't give so much of a shit that I'm willing to compromise my vision of what I want to do. Sorry for the interruption, but we need to take a quick break for the sponsor of this episode.
This episode is brought to you by Bunny Smut. Are you sick of the Trump administration trying to gut our democracy and turn our country into a dictatorship? Are you disgusted with all the corruption, with the ICE raids against our citizens? Do you agree with the idea of no kings? If so, then Bunny Smut is what you're looking for. T-shirts that scream loudly no to MAGA and no to Trump. We're fighting against Trumpism and autocracy one t-shirt at a time. BunnySmut.com.
I know you refer to it as drawing because you are drawing and you are using pencils. But when I look at the final work, I don't feel like I'm looking at a drawing. I feel like I'm looking at a painting that is done using graphite and pencils.
Yeah, I mean, I have to find a better way. I think graphite paintings, but even that's not. I don't know the terminology. It's drawing.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
pencil and paper,
It
but
is drawing because you're
that's
using a
okay.
pencil. Yeah. It's just there's so much more. There's so much more extraordinary and transcendent when you think the word drawing and then you look at your work. These are two different things. Very, very different things. I'm curious about your parents. So you grew up as a New York Jew with immensely wonderfully supportive New York Jewish parents. Where were they from? Were they born in the States or did they?
The Bronx. Yeah, no. My grandparents were from Ukraine. The Russians were very anti-Semitic, and they kicked us all out.
Yes.
And thank God they did. That's all I can say. My parents, I lucked out. I really lucked out. I mean, wow.
I was asking because I have Ukrainian Jewish heritage myself.
Maybe we're related.
I was wondering how weird would that be. So yeah, my grandfather escaped Ukraine in 1910.
Yeah.
On the underside of a train to
Ukraine. What part of Ukraine are you from?
I don't remember.
My mother's family's from Odessa.
I think it was Odessa,
Yeah.
but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I just know that he was 5 years old. It was 1910.
Yeah.
And they stowed away
Yeah.
in the luggage compartment, which was like underneath, and it took them 2 days to get out of Ukraine. And it's that classically New York immigrant story. They ended up coming in through Ellis Isle, and they ended up in the Lower East Side.
My grandpa was 11.
Yeah, okay, so similar, a little bit
Yeah.
older. That's great. So we have some common heritage. Wouldn't that be weird to find out that we're actually
Well, they
related?
kept us all together in like
It's
shtetls, so
it's
we
true.
could be third cousins. You never know.
Yeah, I actually recently met somebody through 23andMe. We have the same great great grandparents on
Wow.
the Jewish side. So okay, you haven't had a show in a while. Do you have any shows lined up?
I had a show a couple of years ago in Paris. I love saying this because it's like boasting. I love it.
Uh huh.
It's
Uh huh.
humble bragging, but not
Okay.
really humble. I had a show in a small museum at the foot of Montmartre in Paris. A drawing. It was an international drawing exhibition, and my work was featured. And they
Hmm.
also played. I have a film. I have a film. There's a video about my work that premiered. Actually, it is a film in South by Southwest. And so they played that in the theater of the museum. It was lovely. And I got to stay there and speak French. It was wonderful. And then I had a couple of other shows since then. I had a show, there's a new gallery that opened downtown
Hmm.
called Art Space 114, and that's an amazing space. And I got to show my huge pieces, but a lot of and some political work, but I have unframed a lot of unframed new work about the last 5 years in the US. I can't seem to place it. I mean, it needs a big, big space. So I was going for museums or big, like
Hmm.
five-star galleries, but the five-star galleries, they think, oh, her work is not going to make money. I can't do this. We only need color. We need interior decor kind of stuff, right? But I've been living off my artwork for the past
Yeah,
30 years. I have a following. I don't know why they're afraid of me, but there we are.
because I mean, I remember seeing a show of yours at the Ace Gallery.
Yeah.
There was many, many big pieces, and they were all in black and white. And you sold pieces, did you not?
I sold a lot there.
Yeah, yeah. Is Ace Gallery still around, or
No, he got arrested by the FBI.
no shit?
Shit. There's a lot of people who really, really, really dislike Doug Christmas because he didn't pay anybody, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But Doug changed my life. He signed me on and allowed me to do pieces. I mean, it was like my wet dream to do huge drawings. Because in Europe, we didn't have as much space and they want small and cheap. But in LA, there's plenty of, oh God, the Ace Gallery had huge, huge galleries, bigger than museum in Europe. And I was allowed to play on huge pieces of paper. And I will always be grateful to Doug for that. Always.
So your show in Paris were those smaller pieces as a
No, there are
result?
a couple of big and a couple of small. It was a mélange.
Okay. And did you sell work there?
It was a museum. They weren't just selling.
Oh, okay. It was a
Yeah.
museum.
I do a lot of commission pieces for people on social media, which is why I mentioned that piece to you. For a lot of my fans and followers, I do like little pieces for very affordable prices.
Hmm.
And that's what I do. And I also, big collectors buy the bigger pieces.
So when you lived in Europe for what? Close to half your life? You went over there in your 20s, I think?
36 years. Yeah.
36 years. Okay. And you were in your 20s when you went there? Is that right?
God, I wish I knew I think I was 20.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. So when you moved to LA 15 years ago or thereabouts, you came back to the US because your work had begun selling better in the US than it had been in Europe at that point, correct?
No,
No?
no. First of all, I was getting more shows in LA. A lot of my collectors were from LA,
Hmm.
and I got invited to be an artist in residence in Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah.
And when I was invited by Greg Escalante, a friend of mine had been a British friend of mine had been an artist in residence and suggested that I would be the next one. I didn't
Hmm.
even know anybody there, and she said, "Laurie, you should do it. It's amazing." And I said, "No." And she said, "You're going." And she hung up on me. I always say no for everything, by the way.
So is that how to get you to say yes? Is to say you're going to do it and then hang up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a Spanish friend who every time I say no, like she's the one who took me to Mexico, and that's why I
Yeah.
did the Day of the Dead show. She said, "You're going to Mexico." And I said, "No, thank you." She said, "You're going." And she hung up on me. She
Uh-huh.
also told me to shut up and draw, which is the best advice I've ever gotten from anybody anywhere. But
Mhm.
anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So Cal State Fullerton. I go to Cal State Fullerton. I'd never been to Southern California. I've been to San Francisco,
Okay.
which, okay. So I go and then I take the train into Union Station and I get into LA and there's these shows and crazy people and I feel at home for the first time in my life. I always felt like a foreigner, even in New York, but I
Mhm.
felt like a foreigner in Europe because, that's fine. I was a foreigner in Europe, but I felt like a foreigner in the US too. So when I got to LA, it was weird. I felt like I was home. And so I thought, "Oh my God, I didn't know about this place." I thought LA was like Hollywood
Yeah.
and then, the women with the thingy and the lips and very superficial crap. I didn't know LA was such a creative volcano
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
and so many insane people, insane like me. I mean, in London, there are tons of insane people too, but LA is a different insane. And so I thought, oh my God, I can move to LA and I don't even need a visa.
So you discovered that LA is a home to all sorts of different kinds of creative weirdos like you, which is something I can completely relate to. And it's probably one of the things I do miss about living in LA. And I think in a way, that's kind of the whole idea of this podcast is to talk to, I guess, creative weirdos, which are basically my favorite kind of people.
Mine too. I don't really relate to earthlings at all very well. I draw about them a lot,
Yes.
but I don't really have very many earthling friends.
So describe earthlings as opposed to the rest of us.
I don't need to. I think you know what
Okay.
I mean.
I do. It might be good content. Might be good content that people can look at on their phone.
I don't want to offend earthlings. They might kick me off the planet.
And a lot of them are presumably ones that maybe are buying some of your work, right?
Yeah, you never
What do you
know.
think?
You
What do you
never
think?
know.
What do you
So a
think?
couple of earthlings do have good taste.
Okay, yes. Well, here's a random left field question.
Hmm.
What do you think of the work of Hieronymus Bosch?
So when I first saw it up close and personal in the Prado, I thought, man, if this guy were alive now, I'd marry him.
Okay.
Just standing there and seeing all the bits and pieces. And again, I didn't know what was going on, like with the Christ and the Christian
Hmm.
paintings,
Hmm.
because a lot of the stuff is lost in time, but it didn't matter. And also, he inspired me. I studied his paintings a lot to get the composition. His compositions are amazing.
Yeah.
He crams all this stuff in but you can see everything. It's not like, "Oh my God, it's so much." He draws your eye around his
Yes.
canvas, and the way he does it is so mathematical and so beautiful. So I studied his work a lot. So when I do my big canvases and very, very complicated stuff, I try to manipulate the viewer. So you're not just, "Oh my God, this is too much." And you're going from here to here to here to here because he does lead you around the landscape. It's beautiful.
Yeah. The other artist that occurs to me that does something similar is Peter Bruegel.
Oh yeah, Bruegel. Yes,
Some of
yes,
his detailed, like
yes.
a lot of things going on, and those are two artists that had huge, profound influences on my own psyche. Was Bosch and Bruegel, and I think for similar reasons. For similar reasons, kind of how you just described.
And also, that's not surreal or real. That's
Yeah,
the
exactly.
kind of in-betweenism
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
that I was influenced by. And also, Dürer influenced me as well. In fact,
Mhm.
at the Frick Museum, my mom and I used to go out into New York, take the bus, and then going to New York for lunch at the Russian Tea Room. And before we went to lunch, we always used to visit the Frick Museum, and there was a drawing show, a drawing of Dürer's there. And to see his marks and the way he, held the pencil and the way he did things was beautiful. And I was showing it to my mother and saying, look how he's, and I was going really deep into the work and showing her how he did everything and how he moved and went out. And then we went out of the Frick, and my mother turned to me and said, I love you, Laurie Lipton.
That's wonderful.
He didn't say, I love you, darling, or I love you, sweetheart. She said, I love you, Laurie Lipton, the artist. That I remember, I think that happened like 100 million years ago, but I remember it like yesterday. It was such a powerful statement.
She was recognizing you for being that much more than just her daughter.
Yes.
That's wonderful. I think it's wonderful that you have, growing up, you just had so much support from your parents for just recognizing this thing that you had inside.
And also they were so intelligent, well-read. I was taken to museums, I was taken to concerts, I was exposed to all kinds of culture. I was very, very lucky. And I'm still lucky. I'm able to draw all day, every day.
You've probably spent more minutes and hours and weeks with a pencil in your hand than probably anybody currently alive on the planet.
Yeah, no, there is nobody as crazy as me. I have drawn more than anybody ever on Earth or off Earth. Other people have lives. Other people have social lives and things.
Yeah, it's overrated.
Everyone, oh, by the way,
Yes.
everyone always asks me, how long did that take you? Everyone. I don't know why this is so important to everybody. Everyone always asks me, how long did that drawing take you? And you know what? I don't care.
It takes as long as it takes.
Exactly. When I'm in something, when let's say you're in music or you're in a book or you're in a film that you're really, really enjoying, do you go like this? Oh, what time? How long is this taking? No.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm in the drawing. I don't know how long. I wake up, I draw, I go to sleep.
Well, I want you to know that I was going to make a distinct point of not asking you that question. I do little bits of art myself. I mean, mostly just kind of abstract mosaic, mostly on furniture. And the only reason I bring this up, it's because of that whole thing about time. When I do this work, nothing is planned, and I invariably let the process take me, and it leads me, which is in and of itself an amazing feeling. And time disappears. I've had chunks that I'm like, oh shit, that was 4 hours, and it felt like 15 minutes.
Exactly.
And I just think that suspension of time and is such an amazing thing, just being pulled into that whole process.
It's very difficult to explain to people that creating something from nothing is a magical process. And to get into it, to allow yourself to lose control and just plunge in. I've been doing this for so long that I have total confidence in myself, and I'm allowed to just go into the lines and create a form and create a picture out of nothing.
Yeah.
And that is, as you said, time disappears. There is no time. It's bliss.
It's non-linear at that point, right?
Yeah.
It kind of becomes more of a fluid process. Well, that's kind of a nice place to end.
Yeah.
I think.
On bliss.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Creative Asylum. A quick favor before you go. If you liked this conversation, please be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes drop every Tuesday at 10. You can find us on Instagram and on YouTube at Creative Asylum CA. That's Creative Asylum and the letters CA. Our website is thecapod.com, and our Facebook is the same, facebook.com/thecapod. Until next week, when we'll have a new conversation with another creative disruptor, stay creative in life and at work.